This podcast is sponsored by BetterHelp. Write your story with BetterHelp. Visit betterhelp.com/passgas today to get 10% off your first month. That's BetterHelp, HELP.com/passgas. This podcast is sponsored by Shopify. Established in 2025 has a nice ring to it, doesn't it? Sign up for your $1 per month trial period at shopify.com/gas, all lowercase. Go to shopify.com/gas to start selling with Shopify today. Shopify.com/gas.
What's up, everybody? Welcome back to Past Gas. This week we're talking about one of the most hated cars of all time, a car that has experienced a, quote, ironic reassessment over the last couple years. It's the Pontiac Aztek. You know it from Breaking Bad. You know it from your nightmares. Really complicated car. Mostly the result of just a lot of mismanagement or rush development. We're going to tell you the whole story. It's a lot of fun. Can't wait for you to hear this one. It's Pontiac Aztek. Walter White's Pontiac Aztek pulls up to a handicapped parking space at Rio Rancho High School. The brakes are squealing. There's a hubcap missing, and the pewter metallic paint confuses the eye. Is it green? Is it yellow? Either way, it's all disgusting. And you know from the second you see the double hood of the Pontiac Aztek that whoever's driving it is going to be a loser. Sure, it looked like ass, but it checked all the boxes for a commercially successful mid-2000s crossover. And nowadays, there are plenty of weird-looking crossovers just like it. It came with a V6, all-wheel drive, a removable center console that doubled as a cooler, and you can get an Aztek tent 20 years before the Cybertruck. Just like Walter White, the Pontiac Aztek died after just 5 seasons.
Spoiler alert.
It's been enough time. So, why was the Pontiac Aztek so hated? How did a well-meaning committee design such a flawed car? How did this crossover take down such an iconic company like Pontiac? This week on Past Gas, the Pontiac Aztek, failure by committee. Welcome back to the show, everybody. My name is Nolan Sykes. Joining me this week, we got Bart Bidlingmeyer, Bids Bardo, across the table.
Good to be back. Hello, everybody.
Sporting a beard now.
If you can call it that. It's very, very kind of you, Nolan.
You're welcome. And we got Joe Weber.
No one even knows that I have a beard. It's not really a beard. Well, it's kind of just like beard. Fuzz.
Yeah, no. Look at us. 3 white guys with beards on a podcast. What a show. Yeah, this week we're talking about, I think, a car that's ahead of its time, or was ahead of its time. Mm-hmm. Maybe cursed by the fact that it looked like that, the Pontiac Aztek.
Yeah. Did you ever drive in one?
No, I've never been in one.
I've never been in one either. But I think we did a Wheelhouse on it a long time ago. It was very early on in Wheelhouse. And I remember like every car that we research and do a video on, for a week afterwards, everyone is like, "Oh, yeah. I found this one for $4,000. Should I get it?" Whatever. I was like, it was at the time where they were really blowing up because of the end of Breaking Bad. You know, millennials who loved ironic cars were really like snatching them up. And for a second, I was like, "Could I get one? Could I be an Aztek guy?" And no, I don't ever want one.
I think it's a very interesting car, but yeah, I don't think I would ever purchase one now.
It's like, why? Yeah.
Like, why?
Why would I get super into like Pontiac vibes or like Toyota Matrixes?
Yeah. You're still at the end of the day buying a mid-2000s Pontiac, which by all accounts probably not that bad of a car, but you know, you're going to daily something.
Yeah.
Probably wouldn't want that.
This is like something that someone buys that can't afford a Cybertruck but still wants all the attention.
Ooh.
You know?
Yeah, but you could also, you could beat the crap out of it and not care.
Yeah.
You know? And you'll go off-road in those. If you know what I mean? Like, get a car that you don't care if you break it.
Yeah, it's got Versatrack. You could do some light off-roading in it.
You wouldn't want to.
Well, now I am kind of interested.
Yeah. I mean, take it up to the mountain. And you know what? My axle broke. Guess what? Car in the mountain.
Don't care. Yeah.
I thought you were going to be like, there's $1 million, so just go get another axle.
Pontiac. Sorry. This is for my own
Saving some tabs.
Yes. Well, I think it'd be a funny Lemons car. Pontiac Aztek.
Honestly, that's a good application of this.
Yeah.
Yeah,
you're
V6,
damn right it is.
The V6 only made 185 horsepower, and it was very underwhelming corporate.
Yeah.
Built for
I'm
reliability.
Oh,
sure we'll get into it, but do you know if it's heavy or light? I mean, it's not a big car. 180 is probably plenty.
Aztek.
Hell yeah. This one's actually pretty nice for $3,500.
Almost 3,800 pounds. So pretty hefty.
Yeah,
it's happening.
All the
Yeah.
38. What is it?
That's $3,500. $3,500.
You found one?
I found one.
Dude, that's only $1 a pound.
Yeah.
That's better than steak right now. Go buy that.
The wheels look comically small on this car. Like, look at this.
The proportions are all over the place.
Dude. Look at. Okay, I can.
That
That's
is
bad.
stretched. That's
You
not.
think
They
so?
don't look like that. Yeah, they're trying to make it look.
No,
more
they
like
look weird.
They do look weird, but that looks long.
That's so bizarre, dude. That looks terrible. That's so weird looking. Okay,
How many miles on it?
let's see. This one is over in
500.
It has 195,000 miles on it. It's a lot.
Yeah.
But dude, again,
195,000 miles on it.
Yeah.
Like, we're about to shit on this car.
yeah,
And somebody's been
exactly,
driving that
exactly.
that's great.
Yeah.
It's still
This,
kicking.
yeah, this
Go
is a
get it.
driven all the time car. Like, this has been driven ever since it was bought in
Why
2001.
don't we wait until Nolan buys it and then
Yeah.
shoot this?
Yeah. Oh, that's true. Yeah.
We do that.
All right.
See
Okay.
you next week.
Yeah. Let's get into this. I'm excited now. Let's learn about one of the first crossovers ever.
Yeah.
So, the crossover has been around since 1979 with the debut of the AMC Eagle. And some argue that the Lada Niva did it even earlier. But it was the Eagle that would set the blueprint for future crossovers. Even though it's considered a station wagon, it also offered extra ride height and all-wheel drive, technically putting it in the crossover category we know today. However, the word crossover didn't exist at the time and would take almost 20 years for it to properly enter the mainstream vocabulary with the Toyota RAV4. In the 90s, the SUV market was soaring, but many young Gen Xers, like Bart, couldn't justify spending the money on a big SUV.
I don't know if I should say thank you or
Oh.
screw off.
I don't know.
You're a cusper though, right?
I'm the Pepsi generation. I think there's a lot of us that were firmly rooted in
Pepsi.
in the Pepsi.
In the
no.
Pepsi
Pepsi had a
ecosystem?
big. So during the Cola Wars,
Yeah.
have we
Okay.
talked? Are we revisiting
No.
the Cola Wars?
Dude, the Cola Wars come up in every script.
Yeah.
No, I'm just kidding.
Yeah. Well, there was a lot of lives lost. But Pepsi was like, "Oh, we're gonna let old people have Coke. Like, we lost them,
Yeah.
but maybe." And so they started this campaign that was
Gotcha.
all about the next generation. It was like, maybe if we get these kids who are watching MTV, we'll
Nice.
have them for life.
Yeah.
And
I wish
No, it's too sweet. There's only one Coke.
I wish young
Pepsi's
people
fine.
cared as much about soda as we did back then.
yeah,
It tells you what a blissful time it was.
Yeah,
you know?
honestly.
Yeah.
so these Pepsi sucking 20-somethings love to do outdoorsy stuff and wanted a car that matched their lifestyle. Station wagons were boring and couldn't take you off-road, and an SUV was too big, so why not find a middle ground? Honda, Toyota, and Volkswagen started experimenting with small SUVs that maintained the four-wheel drive and higher ride heights of big SUVs, just in a smaller, shrunken-down package. It's cold outside. Looks-wise, these cars stood out. They came in funky shapes and colors and looked unlike anything else on the road at the time. But for Gen X, especially in California, they were perfect. Early crossovers began trickling in from Japan and Europe and started doing extremely well in America.
So I think it's worth mentioning that it's not being marketed to people just because they live in California, but there are so many outdoorsy types out here. It's a massive market that it kind of sets the trend for the rest of the U.S. Right. It might take a couple years to catch on in, the Midwest, but California was definitely like a tastemaker. I think it still kind of is.
And I think also they had to just concede like Vermont to Subaru. So maybe they can get a foothold.
There's an dude on Instagram that plays a game where he goes
on Google Maps.
Google Maps in Seattle, and he stops talking as soon as he sees a Subaru, and it's like always like 4 seconds before he's like, oh, there's a Forester. There's an Impreza.
So Pontiac didn't have anything to offer in this new segment. The best they could do was the Montana minivan, which was positioned between the Chevy Venture and the Oldsmobile Silhouette. Remember that one? And marketed as the most rugged of the three. But a rugged minivan wasn't going to cut it.
When we talked about the Looney Tunes, the Warner Brothers collab, it was a Chevy Venture.
Yeah.
And it had, I looked this up, all the Warner Brothers spec Chevy Venture had was monotone color. So just whatever. It didn't have like extra, it had painted cladding.
Yeah.
But then it had just a little emblem, the Warner Brothers emblem on it. Then it gave you perks. Like you could get into Warner Brothers and take a tour for free or something like that.
Like, had a minivan.
Yeah, and then it gave you access to their not streaming network, but like their channel.
Interesting.
Yeah.
That's not worth it at all.
No, it's not worth it at all. Oh, it also came with a VHS player.
Okay.
Oh, good. That's the other part. Yeah.
That's cool.
I also like, we just listed 3 minivans that are the same minivan with different grills.
Yeah.
This is still the era where GM's just kind of like, this could be our minivan. Change the front of it.
So if that wasn't bad enough, Pontiac's market share was waning in the 90s as Firebird sales dropped and new offerings like the anemic Sunfire showed just how far the brand had fallen since their heyday in the 1960s. Back then, they were seen as one of the more experimental divisions under the General Motors umbrella. This mentality started when John DeLorean was head of Pontiac and used his leverage and a few tricks up his sleeve to offer a massive V8 as a dealer option for the small Pontiac Tempest, dubbed the GTO. Viewers of today's video might know this already.
Yeah, I had to reckon most of them.
The GTO was the unconventional idea that helped Pontiac flip their image from an old lady car to a young enthusiast car. Back then, they weren't the Pepsi you were the Pepsi generation. Mm-hmm. These were the Moxie generation.
Moxie.
Yeah. Pontiac rode that image well into the 90s, debuting high horsepower and avant-garde concepts like the Stinger, a futuristic beach coupe that came with a folding table and a garden hose. Or 1997's Pontiac Rageous, a 4-door muscle car that had styling cues well beyond its time.
Have you seen the Stinger? It looks like a Ninja Turtle car.
I would urge anyone who hasn't seen the Stinger, there are a few good videos. One is kind of like a Pontiac ad for it, being for like car shows. Look what we're doing.
Yeah.
And another is
more like, look what we'll never do.
Yeah. As is the case with many concept cars. But then there's also, I don't know if it's one of those the PBS car review shows, but they're like, and now we'll look into the future.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
And anyways, please look for those on YouTube because they're hilarious. And this car is unbelievable if you haven't already found these.
And then there's the Rageous, which again, a 4-door, so it's got a full-sized front doors and then kind of like smaller half doors to make it a 4-door car. So you got back seats back there, but the front end, it kind of reminds me of like a G-body Firebird a little bit, maybe not completely, but it's definitely given like new millennium F-body vibes.
Those tri-spoke
like those
wheels.
Camaros that it's definitely bled into the.
It's sick.
We'll be right back after these messages.
Some people just know they can save hundreds on car insurance by checking Allstate first. Like you know to check for no parking signs first before leaving your car. Now, that $3 coffee is costing you $300 because that good spot was actually in front of a fire hydrant. Yeah, checking first is smart. So, check Allstate first for a quote that could save you hundreds. You're in good hands with Allstate. Potential savings vary, including based on how you buy. Terms apply. Allstate, Fire and Casualty Insurance Company and affiliates, Northbrook, Illinois.
This podcast is sponsored by BetterHelp. What do you want your 2025 story to be? Every January brings you 365 blank pages waiting to be filled. In 2025, maybe you're ready for a plot twist, or maybe there's a part of your story you've been wanting to revise. Life isn't about resolutions that fade by February. It's about picking up the pen and becoming the author of your own life. Think of therapy as your editorial partner, helping you to write new chapters and create the meaningful story you deserve to live. I think everyone should try therapy at some point. It's super helpful, and it's literally just talking to someone. If you don't have anyone to talk to a therapist. I think if you've never tried therapy before, BetterHelp is the easiest way to get into it. BetterHelp is fully online, making therapy affordable and convenient, serving over 5 million people worldwide. Access a diverse network of more than 30,000 credentialed therapists with a wide range of specialties. And you can easily switch therapists at any time for no extra cost. Write your story with BetterHelp. Visit betterhelp.com/passgas today to get 10% off your first month. That's BetterHelp, HELP.com/passgas. Now back to the show.
So even the cars that made it to production were unconventional, like the mid-engine Fiero and the Pontiac Transport, which was their first venture into breaking out of the station wagon mold and trying out minivan production.
It sounds like, oh, they took a risk on a minivan, but like at the time, minivans were super new. I think a couple of episodes ago in the Dodge history, we talked about Lee Iacocca introducing the idea of a minivan, and it paid off huge for Dodge. And so GM was like, well, we got to get in on this.
Can I say I kind of miss minivans?
I love minivans. Dude, my parents have a Grand Caravan. They bought like a 2020, which is the same model as the 2009 with like an updated center console. Yeah. But Mopar it's great. Like I drove it. My dad was like, I don't want to drive. And so I drove it the whole time they were here.
Well,
it's fun.
A bunch of us went to your parents' house in Milwaukee and stayed there, and you shuttled us around in the minivan.
It's so convenient. Yeah, it's so nice.
But dude, the Pontiac Transport back in the day, that's a '90s classic right there, dude. Dude, your buddy's mom has one of these.
Yep.
You're going to their house. You're playing N64.
This was the egg-shaped era where the Previa came out.
Yep.
Yeah.
Dude, I love this thing. Yeah. It's so ugly, but it's very
and it's funny because the Previa looked the way it did because they moved the engine.
Oh yeah,
but it like still changed the way. And they're like, well, I guess we could lower it a little bit closer to look like a, because it used to the minivan like it used to have. It was just like, oh, we made our vans but smaller.
Yeah,
and they kind of,
dude.
That like
it's cool.
Yeah, the nose gets real short once you move the engine in the middle.
So, at the time, GM was pushing for 40% innovation across all their marquees.
Not too much. Yeah. I love how it's like, you're at 100.
Yeah.
You guys are at 100 over here. We can't do that. When you guys are like 40% innovation, all right? Don't go above 40.
They wanted to break the mold and stand out, but also fit in it at the same time. The most innovation in the auto industry was happening in the crossover segment. So, the move to make a new Pontiac crossover seemed like a no-brainer. The closest they had was the Sunrunner, which was only badged as a Pontiac in Canada, but here in the U.S., it was better known as the Geo Tracker.
Or a Chevy Tracker. But I was looking at these because I was like, I've never heard of a Sunrunner. It was just a tracker in even better colors than, because like the Chevy one came in yellow, it came in blue, whatever. The Pontiac one came in bright purple.
Yeah, that's very cool. Pontiac Sunrunner.
Geo was doing weird stuff too.
Yeah. And Geo was just like rebadged Isuzus, right? Yeah.
A crossover with mild success might be enough to save the waning Pontiac brand, but even then, could they pull it off?
Pontiac hired a designer named Tom Peters to spearhead the design process of what would go on to become the Aztek. Peters was the director at GM's West Coast Advanced Concept Car Center and had said in interviews that he, quote, approaches the design process with a childlike wonder to what cars should be.
And if you've ever seen a kid design a car, you know this is a winning strategy.
Peters spent his childhood sketching hot rods that he would sell for nickels, and his focus was to create characters that car enthusiasts can connect with. He would later go on to design the 5th gen Camaro and C6 Corvette.
Hey now.
Corvette's cool. 5th gen Camaro is the 2011
very
one?
similar, yeah. It's
most recent,
now,
the most recent one. Yeah, the latest one.
Peters said that at the time he started on the Aztek, he had never heard the term crossover.
I thought you were going to say the term Aztek.
He did a deep dive into Mexican history.
Have you heard the death whistle?
Oh, yeah.
The Aztec death whistle? That thing is crazy sounding.
It goes.
Yeah, it's like a cartoon wolf with the eyes bugging out.
Yeah. He's so horny he dies.
Story of my life.
That's.
Oh, damn it. Yeah, you're right.
Yeah. The initial concept of the Aztek came from a sketch done by Peters in 1994 where he envisioned putting, quote, Camaro and a Blazer into a blender.
Wanna put my Tanda Blazer in a blender.
Mix it around with a Camaro and then you get it. I'm not good at freestyling. Bridget O'Kane would sketch this out, putting the first known concept onto paper. The sketch would be dubbed Project Bear Claw for the way this design took on an aggressive shape and low stance.
For the way it gets lodged two at a time.
Like Chris Farley? Yeah. One of the biggest inspirations for the Aztek came from a North Face jacket Peters bought.
What? Okay.
He was drawn to its yellow and black accents and its ability to be reconfigured.
90s was a crazy time.
Yeah. Peters would pass it around the studio for others to take notes and comment on during the Aztek design process.
He passed his jacket around?
Yeah.
Is that what it's...
That's so... I love that.
This is explaining a lot
Yeah,
about
it really is. That's so funny. Hey, man.
Aztek.
Like, you're just like, God, Peter keeps showing me his fucking jacket, dude.
I get it,
we get
man.
it. You can afford North Face jackets, Peter.
But
it's 500 down or whatever.
But then you look at the jacket that he's talking about. It kind of looks like how the Aztek came out.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
Right?
That's a nice jacket.
I know, that is a
take
nice...
that.
I can just like feel it and hear it.
You know what? I wish he would... I bet people were actually like, I feel so lucky because he gave me... Look at his jacket. He's letting me touch it.
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah.
That's so funny, dude.
The office culture there was off the hook.
In the same way this conjures up the Aztek in my mind, like a puffy Patagonia jacket is a Subaru Outback tee, you know?
Yeah, that's fair.
What are those jackets that have like red, blue, white, yellow? Like they're like $300 a piece.
Naval uniforms?
No, it's like a puffy jacket. That's like it's a very fancy puffy jacket. I'm a fancy puffy jacket. Nope, that did not help.
That's how you shop.
Cotopaxi is the
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
That's an REI brand for sure.
They're sick.
So as much as Peters was integral to the inception of this vehicle, a lot of his ideas wouldn't get very far in the process, or rather they would remain, but with many other ideas piled on top of them. The design process for the Aztek was utter chaos. GM wanted more than anything to get this car on the market as quickly as possible, and so they refused to entertain any criticism. Peters wanted the Bear Claw, but GM wanted it to resemble a minivan. This all resulted in what was being called a, quote, design by committee disaster, with each leg of the process ham-fisting new ideas without killing the old ones.
Can I just give a shout out to the phrase ham-fisted?
I was gonna say,
it's gotta be no better. It's just the perfect.
Yeah.
You say that, you don't even need any more.
And it's not like good ham. It's like the watery block of ham you get at Costco with low sodium.
But like, imagine walking around with these two big ham fists. You know,
Big ham
there's
fists.
There's the little bone at the end you can see.
Yeah.
I mean, it's just such a great expression.
it's great.
I wonder where that comes from. If you, for some reason, know the etymology of ham fist, let us know in the comments. So everyone had something to add to the Aztek, and no one had anything to subtract. Or, no one was editorial about it. Not only would this design by committee make for a confusing concept, it would also foreshadow Pontiac's brand demise. Like other crossovers, the Aztek was designed with the Gen X consumer in mind, often being referred to as extreme with capital letters and no E on the front of it. The late 90s, early 2000s was a time when Gen X was garnering more buying power, and GM's marketing teams desperately wanted to connect with them like they had seen Toyota and Honda do. They were active. They wanted to be outside. They had rugged, sexy lifestyle, and they were looking for a vehicle that could hold a lot of gear on the way to Moab.
Hell yeah, dude.
GM understood...
Get my freaking windsurfing gear on top of that car. Let's go, dude. That's extreme.
That was a very 90s sport.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Are you thinking of kite surfing?
No, I'm thinking of windsurfing.
I think windsurf
Yeah.
was. I feel windsurf is more.
That's more
80s,
80s,
don't you
yeah.
think?
I think kite surfing
feathered
was
hair
like
and the-
late 2000s.
All right. Yeah, but it was like X Games, right?
I know what
This
you mean,
is-
though.
Yeah, that's true. Oh, you know what was
that's-
a very 90s sport was street luge.
Oh, yeah. Put my street luge.
Yeah.
My luge. I've got to put my... Does this car have enough room in it for my luge?
Actually, they designed the Aztek for street luge to be high enough that street lugers could go underneath it. Yeah.
And the cooler, you can put all your Sobe in there.
Oh yeah, pink milk.
Yeah.
I had a Cannondale with Sobe.
What?
It was like a promotional. Yeah.
Yo.
I knew somebody whose like dad was in promotions for Sobe, and they had
That's
this bike
sick
they
as
never
hell.
rode.
Yeah.
When
It
I
was
was
so good.
When
It
I was
got
a
stolen.
kid, I entered this raffle.
Bummer.
It was a Sobe branded like Epiphone SG guitar, and like we were at a junior drag racing event, and it was in New Mexico that this raffle was taken at the track. Anyway, my dad was super tired from driving us all the way out to Albuquerque area. I was like, Dad, we just gotta like stay for the raffle.
Shout
like
out to Duke City.
I want this. Like, I entered the raffle. Like, I just felt it in my bones that I was gonna win this guitar. It was the sickest guitar I've ever seen. But we had to leave because my dad was like super tired and wanted to sleep at the hotel. And sure enough, we get back the next day, and they're like, yeah, like we pulled the raffle ticket and nobody was there to claim it, so we had to go to the second person.
Oh my
God!
God.
We had to pull again. I was like, I knew that was me.
Yeah.
Probably,
Why
there's
would
no
they
way to
tell
prove
you
that was, but yeah.
They were probably just with you.
Watch me tell this loser kid he wants a guitar.
It's got a fucking Sobe logo on it. Like, who wants that?
Yeah, respect the gecko.
Drain the lizard, bro. That's what it said on the caps, right?
Yeah.
What? All right. Drain the loot.
So GM understood the people they were marketing to, but did they understand what they actually wanted in a car?
So the whole process from design to production took only 26 months, a record for General Motors at the time. This fast-track timeline, however, came at no surprise to those inside as upper management feverishly rushed the process. They were too eager to get this crossover to be the crossover vehicle of the new millennium and finally have an answer to the CR-Vs and RAV4s.
I love the idea of people like celebrating, we did it in only 26 months. And then just like the rest of the year being like, oh my God, this is not a good thing. We should have
taken 3 more months on this.
The warning signs were all flashing for GM to slow down this process. After a doomed market research report that had one person saying, quote, I won't even take it as a gift. GM simply closed their eyes and held their ears to push past the negativity to get the Aztek out. It was even said by someone within the organization that any GM employee with a negative thing to say about the car would be shown the door. Because of this intimidation, the project took on a sort of Emperor's New Clothes situation where everyone just went along with the poor decisions, not wanting to make waves.
Yeah. I mean, you still have a job, even if this Aztek comes out.
Yeah.
And if you're like, I don't know, it kind of looks weird.
The final result had pretty odd proportions. A double hood. It had gray plastic cladding and a rear end that looked like it was chopped off prematurely. It was a half SUV, half minivan creature with an identity crisis.
We'll be right back after these messages. This podcast is sponsored by Shopify. It's 2025, and a new year means new opportunities. For a lot of you out there, I know you've been thinking about one thing over the holidays, and that's starting your own business. But you probably have so many questions. How do I get started? How do I come up with a brand? How do I sell stuff to people? What am I even going to sell? Well, take a deep breath. Shopify's got you. The best time to start your new business is right now. Get your store up and running easily with thousands of customizable templates, no coding or design skills required. All you need to do is drag and drop. Their powerful social media tools let you connect all of your channels and create shoppable posts and help you sell everywhere people scroll. Shopify makes it easy to manage and grow your business. They help with the details like shipping, taxes, and payments from one single dashboard, allowing you to focus on the important stuff like growing your business. What happens if you don't act now? Will you regret it? What if someone beats you to your idea? Don't kick yourself when you hear this again in a year because you didn't do anything now. Established in 2025 has a nice ring to it, doesn't it? Sign up for your $1 per month trial period at shopify.com/gas, all lowercase. Go to shopify.com/gas to start selling with Shopify today. Shopify.com/gas. Now back to the show.
Despite its appearance, the Aztek was actually a fairly practical car. It could fit a ton of stuff in its weird trunk, like your street luge, including a 4x8 sheet of plywood. It had a relatively high ride height. It could be optioned with VersaTrack all-wheel drive and featured a 3.4-liter V6.
I mean, 4x8 plywood. There's a lot of truck beds now that you wouldn't get that fully into.
Now it's pretty big. The LA1 V6's 185 horsepower is more powerful than what the RAV4 and CRV could offer at 127 horsepower and 146 horsepower, respectively. A very fun and unique feature of the Aztek was its removable insulated drink cooler that sat cozied up between the seats. Some versions of the Aztek even came with a camping lifestyle package in which a 2-person air mattress fit into the cargo area with a removable tent. There was seating on the lower tailgate with cup holders. Second row seats had their own headphones and jacks, an optional Pioneer sound system, and even a seat-mounted backpack.
The headphones in the back.
Yeah.
Like if you're all in the car together, aren't you all listening to the same thing?
I remember
anyway?
my mom's Windstar had like headphone jacks, and since I was like 9 years old, I didn't have headphones, so I didn't really use it. But
I mean, how else are you going to drown out the fire trucks? That's what I hate driving around. And then
that's
a
true.
cop comes by and it's like, whoa, dude, I was listening to Kendrick.
Yeah. Like, why are you making so much noise, dude? Freaking pick me energy much? So this car, the Aztek, also got better mileage than most SUVs at the time and boasted more space than most crossovers. But for some reason, its legacy is solely attributed to its unsightly looks, 3-spoke wheels, plastic paneling, and a very plasticky and ostentatious interior. The Aztek was built on General Motors' U-body platform, which was primarily used for minivans like the Pontiac Grand Sport and the Oldsmobile Silhouette. The thought was to create this vehicle on the U-body so it still held some of the design elements of the minivan while still venturing into something edgier and smaller. I mean, it also saves a lot of cost. You don't have to develop your own platform.
Yeah.
But what ended up happening was the U-body created much more space for the interior, but also made for some unpalatable proportions of the car, which is why I don't think that picture we looked at earlier was stretched out. I think it's just...
I think that's real.
Maybe I've only seen it in like 3/4.
I think so. Originally, Tom Peters wanted to use the S-body full-frame truck platform, hoping for a, quote, aggressively styled body featuring big flared wheel arches, a low roof, and a wide track.
Like a bear claw.
The U platform brought a narrower track and caused some of the features to be bulkier than they were aiming for. Oh, yeah.
Oh,
it
yeah.
was stretched out.
That does look stretched. You're right. You're right, Bart.
For those of you just listening, I just showed Nolan a picture, then he looked at it and realized he was wrong.
Yeah, I am. I'm sorry. The U platform brought a narrower track and caused some of the features to be bulkier than they were aiming for, but also gave the vehicle a smoother ride in the end compared to the truck platform. There were hang-ups, sure, whether they were voiced or not, but the Aztek was finally ready for the public. The question was, would the public be as polite?
The initial concept was revealed at the 2000 Detroit Auto Show and was fairly well received. The concept car was clean, well proportioned, had a sporty interior and an appropriate amount of plastic. The Gen Xers were pumped for this edgy crossover. Riding this high, management decided to keep with their promise of innovation and made more radical moves in getting the production version to the market. Although I think this has a little bit more than 40% innovation. A year later, the production Aztek was released, and it looked not like the concept. The brand manager at the time was a man named Don Butler. He said this car, quote, was built for independent thinkers and early adopters, people who weren't afraid to look beyond the edge of convention. And Butler was definitely not afraid to take his own advice to look beyond the edge of convention. In order to garner interest with Gen X buyers, he hired a bunch of college students to create a fake mosh pit during his presentation of the Aztek at the Detroit Auto Show.
What?
9 died and 4 were injured.
And 2 bought Aztecs.
Fox News called it scary. That's hilarious. That is so funny.
The two-toned bright yellow and black Aztek, just like the North Face jacket, sat idly in the center of the pit while students jumped and moshed around it, holding signs that read things like, "It's the versatility, baby," and Aztek, 185 horsepower.
I am suddenly off board. I'm not on board with this anymore.
Look up pictures of this because there's no video. I think they burned all the video. But
It's got to be somewhere.
yeah.
Somebody's got to have it in an archive.
That's so
The
crazy.
presentation of this crossover vehicle culminated in Butler throwing himself off the stage and into the students to crowd surf out of the room.
Hell yeah, dude.
The stunt was not met with the glowing PR it was thought to foster, but instead the opposite.
Of course not. That's
Hey,
lame as
young
hell.
people.
Hey, yeah.
Hello, fellow young people.
I'm like you.
Pontiac Aztek.
He hired Harley, the street loser, to scoot under the car. Was that guy's name? Harley.
Oh, I don't know. It's the versatility, baby.
So people were quick to call it out of touch and weird, which it was. Despite heavy criticism, Don Butler stuck to his words, saying, quote, "We're sure the Aztek will sell on its image alone." The Aztek moved forward and was released a year later in 2001.
I also like the idea of Don Butler remembering this fondly as that time all the kids accepted him and passed him around.
That was probably a great
Crowd
day at
surfing.
work. Yeah.
You know, he kind of like how Dan Schneider made a bunch of like feet jokes in his shows because he was like had a foot fetish. This was like, he was like, I just want people to touch me. And so he was like, had them crowd surf. And he's like,
That's what he thought at the beginning.
Yeah.
He's like, can we design a car that can get people to touch me? Like, this is the culmination of the
And
whole
Nathan for
the
you
whole
sketch.
process.
my
It's
wife
not
doesn't touch me.
There was a lot working against the Aztek from the very first day it went on sale. The PR failure, GM's resistance to any criticism, and misunderstanding of its key demographic were just the start. Auto journalists panned the car almost exclusively due to its appearance. Automobile Magazine even described it as, quote, gut-wrenching to look at. Barely anything was written about the underwhelming but reliable V6 or the cargo space. GM aimed the car at 20-somethings, but what they got was an average buyer in their late 40s. This, as we later learned with Scion, is how you kill the cool factor. A hip 20-something isn't going to want to buy a car they see older people driving in.
I also forgot, I think there was a Kleenex box holder in the glove compartment.
And that's a great idea.
Because you do most of your crying in the car.
Yeah.
Right. You sit in silence, crying.
Yeah.
Well, everyone else wears their headphones,
Yeah.
so they don't have to hear you cry.
That's right.
Point. That now the headphones make sense.
Put in your earphones. Then there was then there was the price. The Aztek had a bit of a higher price tag considering it was marketed towards a younger generation. It was priced between $22,000 and $27,000 depending on the package.
You know how younger people have more money?
Yeah. Overall, its price tag wasn't completely out of reach, but compared to the RAV4 and CRV, which started in the mid 19,000 range, it was in a different bracket altogether.
So just for reference, $22,000 in 2001 is $39,000.
Yeah, that's too expensive, man.
Hunger.
Oh no, I'm horny for high prices.
The Aztek was predicted to sell 75,000 units in its first year on the market. Pontiac ended up selling just over 27,000, and that was its best-selling year. Things, unfortunately, got worse from Pontiac from here on out. If it wasn't devastating enough, the next year saw the release of the Buick Rendezvous, built on the same U-body and featuring the same 3.4-liter LA1 V6. While the Aztek looked ugly and was marketed towards the entirely wrong crowd, the Rendezvous's design language fit in with other Buicks at the time. It was also kind of ugly, but the middle-aged mopes who it was marketed towards didn't care too much about how it looked. I remember these things. They are ugly.
Yeah.
They wanted a comfortable ride that was easy to get in and out of, and that's what they got, plus third-row seating for all their mope friends. Rather than build a Rendezvous as a hip crossover, it was marketed as an upscale minivan, and ultimately became known as the more successful, younger sibling of the Aztek. The Buick outsold the Pontiac, selling 72,000 units in its best year, compared to the Aztek's 27,000.
This era of Buick is really bad. Like there's like the headlights and the grille are all kind of formed to make this like blobby front.
Yeah, it's an ugly car.
It's
Oh,
weird.
man.
Like Buick now looks pretty good. Like I've a couple times like been in a parking garage and be like, did a double take and I was like, what is that? And that's their whole marketing campaign now is like, that's a Buick?
Yeah. I'd also say it's like, imagine you're the guys at Pontiac who designed the Aztek,
Mhm.
and then Buick's like, we'll take that,
Yeah.
but make it worse and sell it to the only people who were buying your car, and we'll sell more of them. And you'd be like, we work for the same company.
In retrospect, I didn't even realize that they were pretty similar cars. It looks like it's just a softer Aztek.
Yeah.
It really is.
It doesn't come in yellow.
No.
But it still has the Kleenex holder.
It's easy to blame the Aztek's poor sales on its appearance, which I will do often. But in hindsight, it took a lot for this car to fail. The vision was there. They were in great hands with Tom Peters, who cared a lot about seeing his idea to come to life and would go on to design some really amazing cars.
Yeah.
The timing was right, and the market was ripe. The demographic of buyers were begging for a not minivan, wanting something a little edgier that still had a lot of utility. But in the end, it was mismanagement that killed the Aztek before it even had a chance. GM stopped production of the Aztek in 2005 after selling only 5,000 cars that year. Its sales were so bad that GM would try to move some of the cars by forcing them onto employees as a company car.
I love that. It's like you're working your ass off. Boss is good news.
Yeah.
Bonus time, and just hands you the keys, and then you look close, and it says Aztek.
Don't look. Stop looking at the keys.
Everybody walks out of the parking lot at the same time, and it's just Aztek.
Jeez. It's truly a wonder that a car with such practical features, even J.D. Power noting that its car ranked highest on all features except exterior styling, could have been such a failure due to its appearance. In total, the Aztek would only sell about 119,700 units in the U.S. during its entire production run. However, years later, the Aztek would return from the grave as an anti-hero.
Besides great mileage, a reliable engine, and that portable cooler thing, the Aztek can also add pop culture icon to its resume. In its earliest bid for fame, the Aztek was cross-marketed on the inaugural season of Survivor in 2001. Richard Hatch, known for being the first winner on the show, also famously for being the naked contestant. I don't know that because I've never seen Survivor.
Survivor's pretty good.
It was a moment.
I'm so many people
TV.
are very into it, and there's like 45 seasons or something, right? Oh, Audrey's waving her head.
Yeah.
Jeez,
Wow.
47 seasons is crazy.
Did you hear? This is another tangent, but there's just a ruling that reality show contestants should be able to unionize.
Was this after Mr. Beast's?
I can't remember what the impetus was for this.
Yeah.
But like if that happens, it's the end of reality television.
Yeah, because
the whole reason it exists is because you're not union,
Mhm.
you're not paying actors.
Interesting.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Jeez.
Anyway.
Okay. Well, I mean, they should be paid handsomely because they're on.
Right. They're making millions.
Oh,
of
I mean,
dollars
dude,
off
a lot of these shows, you
cruise.
barely get paid anything. I know in The Bachelor, a lot of the contestants on The Bachelor don't even get paid, actually.
Well,
That's fucked.
Yeah.
if you're there for the right reasons, Nolan.
Right. Yeah.
You know?
The ultimate, you do get paid the ultimate reward if you make it all the way through. And that's love.
Happiness.
That's right.
Love. Yeah.
Yeah. So you know what? I'm with him.
So Richard Hatch was gifted this Aztek along with his $1 million prize. The Aztek would later be named in court filings as part of the reason why Hatch was sent to prison.
What?
He never paid taxes on the $1 million he won, and since the Aztek was considered a gift, Hatch also did not pay taxes on that as well.
Yeah.
But you still have to pay the sales tax
Right,
on it.
right.
That's why, like, if you win a car on The Price is Right, you have to pay like $1,000 or whatever the tax on
Yeah.
it is to drive it off the lot.
Depends on where you live. Santa Monica, 10%. So it's a lot.
That's a lot. So Hatch openly bragged about this, but that ultimately ended with him spending 51 months in prison for tax evasion.
I just love the idea of some guy in the IRS, hearing Hatch talk about it and then being like, "Huh, I'm gonna get this fucker."
Yeah.
Oh, actually,
Brag about
This
your
is some
car, you will.
low-hanging fruit.
yeah.
Jeez.
That's why people who like film their crimes and put them on TikTok, I'm like, what are you doing? The second and more notable 15 minutes of fame for the Aztek came when it was chosen as the hero car for Albuquerque's drug kingpin, one Mr. Walter White.
I was recently in Albuquerque for Thanksgiving.
Oh, I thought it was to pick up your Sobe guitar.
Yeah, I went back. I said, "Where's my guitar, fuckers?"
Yeah.
No, but there's a big billboard that says, "Don't trash New Mexico," and it just has Bryan Cranston
Oh, really?
in the
Oh, nice.
Walter White getup on it.
Yeah.
I'm just like, okay, yeah, sure.
Pretty good.
Yeah.
We'll take our heroes where we can get them, I guess.
Well, I mean, name someone else from New Mexico.
Dan Brockett.
I was going to say Officer Dan Brockett. Yep.
When Tom Peters said he wanted the cars he designs to become characters, he did not realize that it would become the vehicle of choice for a meth-dealing anti-hero.
Well, he wasn't a meth-dealing anti-hero at the time. He was the teacher,
Yes.
Walter White, with the Pontiac.
Yeah.
Yeah.
The car was handpicked by series creator Vince Gilligan because he wanted to portray White as boring and downtrodden, which was very unfortunate for the Aztek's already sullen reputation. At this point, it was out of production.
Oh, yeah. By like 10 years. Like 5 years.
I also do think it is kind of an interesting twist that it's like, I want to create cars as characters.
Yeah.
It's like, you did.
Yeah.
This one's a joke.
You sure did. Great
However,
show.
the use of the Aztek on Breaking Bad actually gave the car a second life on the used car market. Millennials were now coming into their own purchasing power, and due to a process of, quote, ironic reassessment, the Aztek found new love. That's a good phrase because in Idlewild, I saw a bunch of teenagers and they were dressed like how I dressed in the 2000s.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, it's also there. I think there's some ironic reassessment of other things from the early 2000s, like Creed.
Yeah, you feel very strongly about Creed.
I do not like Creed.
I just
think
saw-
their resurgence is
Unwarranted?
misguided and unwarranted. Yes.
Okay.
All right. I mean, I feel like there's other places to put your energy, Nolan.
But we're on the subject of ironic reassessment, Bart.
I think some people really like Creed. I mean, it's like
Well, Audrey is one of them. She genuinely loves Creed.
she's listening to them now.
Oh yeah, what's
got
going
her-
on in those headphones?
That's exactly.
I always
She hasn't
forget that
corrected a
Audrey
thing.
likes Creed, so now I feel bad.
Well, I saw like a clip where I don't know if it was a drummer or a guitarist, but they're like, yes, Scott, like he would sometimes just make up songs like live. And he'd go, guys, I think we should write a song today. And so
During concerts or like
Arms
during
wide-
practice?
no, concerts. Like if they're doing a show.
What?
Like this is before like they were known for what they're known for,
Yeah,
hits and stuff. So it's like smaller stuff, but he's like, I think it's good energy today. We should write a song. But so like, is it Arms Wide Open where it's like I just heard the
yeah.
They wrote that in front of an audience.
That's
That's
insane.
nuts.
yeah, because he had just gotten a call that he was a dad.
Wow.
Oh,
And
wow.
so he's like, let's write a song. I'm feeling it.
And they just
and it's
jammed. Wow.
That's kind of
and then-
cool.
Yeah,
I
it's
respect
kinda
that.
Well, there you go. How's that for an unironic reassessment, Nolan?
I did get One
got
Last
my-
Breath stuck in my head last week.
Did you
and I
say
was
one
singing-
last breast?
Really?
I think
Breast?
so. Yeah.
Oh, man. I'm thinking about something else.
Speaking of guys who sing shirtless, I did get one last breast in my.
No, One Last Breath. Hold me now. I'm 6 feet from the edge. Yeah, that
Catchy
and
song.
I all I had to do was like sing that one first line,
Mm-hmm.
and then like slowly but surely the whole audience, I could hear them going, "Hold me now," like when they're making coffee. It's very catchy music.
That's pretty fun.
Damn, they do have hits.
Yeah.
I mean, I know they had One Last Breath. What I will say, I actually unironically love One Last Breath. I think that guitar is fucking awesome.
Yeah, it's complicated.
My Own
part,
Prison. That it's hard as
too.
hell.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah.
So going back to the
anyway,
Aztek,
sorry.
Millennials wanted the Aztek for both its cultural
All right,
implications.
sorry. Before
Sure.
we move
Yeah.
on,
Go back.
because I feel like I brought this up a few times. It's kind of like my thing over the past quarter has been me bitching about Creed.
Yeah.
Uh-huh.
But
Are we over it?
I'm over. You guys have sold it for
There
me.
you go.
You
That
guys sold it
story
for me.
gave me new
Yeah,
respect
I'm like,
for Scott
fuck,
Stapp.
Bart got me.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I just made
Yeah.
it up.
What?
No, you No, I did hear that story.
Okay. Well, you know what? You got me, Creed. You got me.
Okay.
I'm gonna go buy a fridge for my garage beers now.
You feel lighter, Nolan?
Yeah, I do.
All right.
Thanks, Bart.
My work here is done.
Thank you. And Audrey, keep on rocking.
So millennials wanted the Aztek for both its cultural implications and also its pragmatic features. Incredibly, it rose to number 6 on the used car market in 2015 as a result of its exposure on Breaking Bad.
What?
That is crazy to think about. Because there's not that many sold.
I was about to say, like, they didn't even make that many of them. That's wild.
The ugly duckling of cars was finally getting its time in the sun. Ironically, Walter White sold his for $50 on the show, but it was wrecked though, right? Didn't he
I remember
he crashed it because Hank was catching on to him, and he remember that moment where Hank was in the car and he was putting 2 and 2 together.
Oh yeah,
and then he was like, ah, and he
that's right,
ran into a different car,
and then eventually they get the Challenger and the 300C.
Yeah,
they get the Challenger for Walt Jr.
The car used in the show is still on display at Sony Studios, and a wrecked version was sold at auction for $7,800. That's crazy.
That's the one that they wrecked for the show.
Yeah.
Crazy.
Wrecked. Back in the mid-2000s, the Aztek became the fall guy for the failing Pontiac brand. The car was its final attempt to muster something new and innovative in the rapidly changing automotive scene, and it missed. But the blame ultimately shouldn't fall solely on the Aztek. Pontiac's leadership pushing past every warning sign to get this car out to market is the reason why Pontiac failed so miserably. Unfortunately, the brand wouldn't recover and later got the chop following the 2008 recession when GM was forced to make drastic budget cuts.
I will also say, as part of that final push, there was the GTO.
The G6?
Yep, the G6. They really, they put it all out there.
Was there a G? Was the G8 different than the GTO?
Yep. G8 is G8 is the follow-up to the GTO. G8 is basically a Holden.
Yes.
Not Monaro. I forget. It's a rear-wheel drive sedan. Same car as the Chevy, not the Malibu. The
SS.
The SS, thank you. Yeah, same platform. Or SS might be bigger than the G8, actually.
They're both 4-door.
Yeah.
Same.
Justin, his brother, James, had a G8, and he was driving that when I met him.
Those are still really expensive.
They're sick. Yeah. Well, because they're great cars.
Yeah, but it has an LS in it?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. LS swap from the factory. Yeah. When interviewed decades later, Tom Peters still holds a fondness for his Bear Claw concept. When asked how he wants this car to be remembered, he says, quote, as a car ahead of its time, which a lot of people can agree with today. It still holds some value on the used car market as a result of its reliability and spacious interior, and you can still see hints of the Aztek in crossover vehicles today. The raised height, the bulky hatchback, and plastic paneling are all around us. The Aztek will go down in history as one of the least attractive cars ever made. But the truth is, this car was ultimately never given a fair chance to succeed. It's just it was too ugly to live. It's too ugly to live.
Yeah.
That's what my dad used to call me.
Because all those features that we mentioned, those are all hallmarks. They're all hallmarks. They're all hallmarks of the market right now.
Yeah.
Every car has plastic cladding.
Well, there's
all the elements are there. Yeah,
movable.
Yeah,
you want to put a seat here, and then you can put the console in the back or the middle or the
exactly.
And then there's just so many things, so many weird crossovers pop up, and I have no idea they ever existed. There's just weird Toyotas and Hondas that have the door handle on the top, and you're like, what's the Ponza?
Yeah.
And it's
the other day. We saw a Tesla, and the door. My kid was like, "I want a car where the doors go up."
Mm-hmm.
Tough.
Tough. Get in this old Buick. You still have the Buick?
No, I got rid of the Oldsmobile.
Oh, the Oldsmobile.
I'm sad about it.
Sorry.
Another brand that got killed off in the 2008 recession, right? Or even before that. I think it was before that. Rest in peace, Alero. Oh, so we have listener mail this week. Hey guys and gals at Donut. I'm a longtime listener and first-time emailer. I've been keeping up with your shows ever since the 2-part series on Smokey Eunuch, and your podcasts are a regular part of my work week.
Well, thank you very much.
That being said, I've got to get one thing straight about your shows. You threw wasps under the bus in episode 266. We sure did. Hudson Hornet episode. Sure, they act aggressive and their stings definitely hurt, but they are incredibly important to the ecosystem as they are pollinators in the same ways that bees are. Nearly 1,000 different plant species are at least partially pollinated by wasps, and over 150 are pollinated only by wasps.
Yeah, the fig wasp.
Like figs. Not only this, but they're incredibly helpful for pest prevention for crops, as they're one of the top predators for aphids, which can completely destroy a crop field if left unchecked. Wasps definitely still have a bad rap, but just writing them off as useless will only perpetuate the misinformation about wasps and many other native pollinators that can help the environment in a sustainable way. That being said, I love all the stories you guys tell, and I can't wait to see what comes next as you guys grow. Best, Connor. P.S. If you ever need a guy to talk about Formula One until you fall asleep, I'm your man. It's my hyperfixation.
All right. Thank you,
Connor.
for the entomology
I'll take the onus
lesson.
for this one. I think I was the one who... Connor, thank you for that. I did dismiss wasps outright.
And
no idea.
Because of it, you're going to self-flagellate later.
I'm going to get stung. There's a nest by my house, and to prove their value, I will let them sting me.
Yeah, I think
you're right. As a predator, they control insect
point.
populations.
That's a good point, man. And I think we think a lot. We treat a lot of other animals in the same way, like mosquitoes or mice and other scavenger type animals as useless. They're just pests. They're vermin. But you know what? Every animal plays an important role on this planet.
We're going to skip rodent snack this week because Nolan has to pee really bad.
I do.
But
I'm sorry.
Thank you so much for watching. Like and subscribe. Follow us on Spotify and download the apps every week, and tell your friends, because that's how we grow. So please tell your friends.
Please do. All right. Follow Bart at BidsBardo on Instagram. Hit him up. Tell him more entomology facts about other insects that he may have.
Bugs.
Follow me at Nolan J. Sykes. Again, want to apologize to Scott Stapp and the rest of the Creed crew. I'm sorry. And follow Joe at Joe G. Weber.
Yeah. We'll see you next week.